What's going on, everybody? Adam here with eTrailer. Today we're taking a look at the Bulldog Winch heavy duty portable air compressor. So this is going to be a great way to be able to hook up to your battery to get air in your tires or anything else that needs air on your camper, your RV, your truck, or your Jeep. So let's get to it. So first things first, we want to set it up. So basically all you got to do is this R button is going to just go from PSI to bar. So you get to pick whichever you want to go with. I like PSI. And then the lower button right here, this is going to set the lower bound. So from 60 to 90 PSI. This is going to just let the compressor know when to turn on. So I'm going to keep it at 80. So if it jumps below 80, it's going to kick on. And then with the up arrow, this is going to set our PSI. So as you can see, it's at 100, so anywhere from 100 all the way up to 125 PSI. And then whenever we're ready and everything's set up, we can just press power. There we go. Awesome. So there isn't really an inbound tank, so as I start to let that air out and it jumps below 80 psi, it's gonna kick back on. So I really like that. Another thing I really like about this is how long the cables are. So we have a 13-foot long power cord, and then we're gonna have a 29.5-foot long air compressor cable. So if I just keep this in front of the car, obviously I can get to the front tires, I can get to the front tires on both sides, but if I come all the way over here, just with it right next to my battery, we should be able to get there, which we can. So even just on a basic Class C, it's easy work just to be able to go ahead and fill up all of our tires with air. And the cool thing is it does come with this, so we can check our tire pressure too. So typically we want to be around 65 PSI. One thing I did notice is we are going to have to kind of bend this stem back a little bit to get this on there. Now that it's on, we have a lot of PSI, so we can actually take some out just by pressing this little knob right here. That'll help deflate. So I can go down. It does take a little bit of time, but then I can press this little handle. And I don't know if you can hear it, but the compressor just kicked on. And it's filling up pretty quick. Perfect. As you can see, that was extremely easy, and it pumped up pretty quickly, which I like. This is a very extremely heavy duty portable air compressor. So if you're looking for something to get you out of that sticky situation, so you don't have to find an air compressor, find shore power, or even just go to a gas station if you're out in the boonies, odds are you're gonna have a battery on you, whether you drove down there or whatever. This thing stays with your car, your battery's on your car, so you're gonna be able to power and pump up any type of flat tire, anything that really needs air. I just love that. And another thing I really like is the carrying case. One, comes with the hard bottom, which is cool. So they don't fill up these pockets for you. So you can have a bunch of your different like tools and stuff like that. Got 3 in the front, 1 on the side, nothing. We do actually have something in the back. And then on the inside, we're gonna have a bunch of different compartments as well. And it fits in there quite nicely, even with all the air hoses. So let me take this off. And then I'll take these off just to show you that it does go back in the case quite nicely. Just drop it on in there, just like that. And of course I can make this a little neater, but all in all, it's just super nice to have a case for it, even though it does have a nice handle. But this is a little bit easier to carry down if you are a little bit farther away from your rig or whatever needs help. So you would have just a shoulder strap or a handle strap. But this is really nice because it is kind of heavy, because it's heavy duty. We don't have a huge RV here, but it's gonna work. Even if you hook it up to the battery farthest away from the back tires, it's gonna work. So it'll work on all your Class C's, it'll work on all your Class A's, Class B's. And now for the campers. So typically we see batteries in the front here at eTrailer, so let's just run through the situation. I got a flat tire. I bring this out from storage in my camper or wherever. Go ahead and take everything out. Just like this. Let's connect up. Positive and negative. Swap these around. The clamps are pretty good too, and they're coated, so that's kind of nice. Protect your hands. And they open up wide enough to even get on some terminals that are kind of a little hectic. So take one side, hook that up, take the other side, and we have two different ports to choose from, and both are going to put out about 7 CFM and 14 total. So you can either have two different tools on there if you want to, or if you really wanted to bridge these two together, you can for a little bit quicker job. Once that's done, we're pretty much good to go. One thing I did notice is it does reset every single time you take it on and off the battery. So if you really need it to go up, you just need to adjust it every single time you connect it. But we're good. So again, plenty of length to go all the way around to all of our tires and air them up. So that's really how easy it is. It's so much easier than trying to find a normal compressor or go to the gas station or something. We can check tire pressure, take it out, add it in. It's just all in all the best portable air compressor. So we've seen it in action. Let's just go over some specs. One, we are gonna have a max PSI rating for the pump, about 125 PSI. The air chuck that comes with it goes all the way up to 150, so you can test for that, which is good. And one thing I do like about this is it's not just for the heavy duty jobs. It gives you these smaller little bits. So for, let's just say, some toys by the lake, or maybe a soccer ball if you guys are playing that. We do have all these that come with it, which is nice, so you don't really have to grab it out of your garage. It kind of comes with everything you need, which is good. Another thing that's good is maintenance. So literally we don't have to do anything. We don't have to oil this thing up. The only thing we want to check periodically on both sides is going to be this little cap we remove, and then it's just a little tiny air filter. So that's all we really need to do, and that really doesn't need to be addressed until you really use this thing for a long time. So that's always nice. And there's going to be one on this side and then one on the other side as well. All in all, I am such a fan of this. It looks cool, comes with a bag, I love that, and it comes with everything that's long enough to be able to cover all your bases. But one thing I'm curious about is to see how fast it's going to fill up 10 PSI. So I'm gonna go over to the tires over here. Typically, whenever a tire drops about 10 PSI, if you have a TPMS system on your camper, or you're using a Class C or A RV or motorhome, it'll send a signal saying that the tire pressure is low. So let's go ahead and take this down 10 PSI and see how quickly it inflates 10 PSI. That's a good mark. So we're at 60 right now. So I'm gonna go all the way down to 50. All right, so we're about at 50 PSI. So let's see how quick it takes to get up to 60 again. There we go. About 16 seconds for 10 PSI. I think that's really, really good. We've had some here at eTrailer that are kind of lighter duty, and it takes so much time to fill up your tires. So if it's nasty outside or you're just in a hurry, this is gonna be a quick way to do it. Now that we looked at the air compressor, we showed you it in action, and then we went over some specs. Now I kind of wanna compare the two. So these two are kind of in the same boat. You know, you have the heavy duty compressor and then you have the one that just has the onboard air tank. So we wanted to see if they're gonna really run tools the way I would want them in my shop. And what we found is they really don't. So the better of the two is gonna be the onboard compressor, the onboard tank compressor. And just even with taking up lug nuts or something like that, super not enough air. It really doesn't work. So if I come all the way over here, it's not even gonna get the lug nuts off. It's not even gonna move them at all. So it's not like, oh, just wait for the compressor to kick back up. Well, it's just not gonna do it. So not really enough to take off lug nuts, which I wasn't really expecting it to, but this is kind of the more extreme case. So then that brings me to some of my other tools that take a little bit less air to move. So basically, the lowest of them all is just my little buffer. So like for your wheels and stuff, if you ever wanted to use some of the cutting cream from Griot's Garage to clean them up, it will work. But once the PSI kind of goes down, it's not really going to do the job. And it's kind of the same deal with this on the heavy duty compressor. Turn this one on. The only difference between the two is just this one's just gonna run a little bit more than this one will, just because it's just actually pumping and putting out the air. But it really doesn't have a whole lot of oomph to keep this rolling. So I probably won't even be able to use this. They're both pretty loud, so there's no real difference there. But a good way to kind of give you an idea of how quick we're gonna go through this air is using this. So I was trying to cut this little board. This is made for metal, but as you can hear it, once it starts to kind of go down on the PSI, it just starts to not really work that well. So moral of the story is you're not really gonna be able to use many air tools, if any, but this would be great just for, you know, just using the air for your airbags on your truck, inflating and deflating your tires, and then of course just those air lockers for you Jeep guys out there. It will be enough air to kind of lock your differential into place. But between the two, I think they kind of do the same thing. This one's not going to hold air, so you're always going to need to have it connected to the battery. But with the other one on this side, you know, I can let it run for a little bit, and once it pumps up to where I want it, I can turn it off, disconnect everything, and then I can just simply close this and keep it in the back of my vehicle for whenever I really need it. We went ahead and tested the onboard tank version of the air pump, and it went from 50 PSI to 60 PSI in the tire at 16 seconds, just like the other one. So our heavy duty one's gonna have a CFM of 7 on each of the outputs. This one's only gonna have one output. It's gonna have 4.2 CFM. But you would think you would see a difference between the two when they're inflating, but I think just because of us having this 1 gallon to kind of go off of, the 4.2 CFM that's getting pumped into this tank is kind of keeping up with it. So they're pretty even there. Another thing I noticed is, one, the air hose is the same length for both of them. Both are going to be about 29.5 foot long. And then this one's just going to have an accordion style, so it's going to be a little bit cleaner and a little bit easier to wind up than just this straight pipe right here. But another thing that is kind of important for me is the cables. So the cables on the heavy duty one are a couple feet longer than the onboard tank. That's just because you kind of just hook this one up, get the air in there, and then you close it up and then bring it on your way. So both have the cables if you need them, but mainly this one over here, the heavy duty, this is gonna be for your RV guys, you know, where you're always by your vehicle when you need the air. But if you're an overlander or if you're a Jeep guy, this is what you really want, because you're gonna have enough air in your tank to activate your lockers and your diff. So whenever you need to do that, you can. And with you guys who have those bead lock tires and are going up and down rocks, a lot of times I adjust my PSI as I'm going on different terrains. So you're gonna have enough to be able to put a couple, maybe about 2, 3, maybe even 4 PSI in each of your tires if you really need to air them up. So off-road, overlanding, Jeep guy right here, and then you just have any type of camper and RVer for this one. Well, that's about it for a look at the Bulldog Winch heavy duty portable air compressor.